Hello, everyone, and welcome to the IMX podcast. On the Star Wars Underworld podcast.
Uh-oh. You've gone silent.
I've gone silent.
Oh, no. There we go. Yep.
Yeah, I got to eat this mic. Let's try that again, guys. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Iron Canon podcast, your home on the Star Wars Underworld podcast network for in-depth discussion on the lore, the canon, and the High Republic, whatever order that is of the galaxy far, far away. My name is Matthew. I'm coming to you from Underworld North Studio in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. And as always, I'm joined across the continent by your friend and mine, Mr. Joel Davis. Joel, how are you doing this week?
I've been on Tatooine all this week. It has been hot. We've had like the 100-degree weather. And then I can see smoke in the distance, so there's a fire somewhere. So yeah, it's California weather.
Is this a like a controlled fire, or is this wildfire?
It's probably somewhere wildfire. I mean, I'd be fine. I'm not that close to it, but we can definitely see the smoke. It's all the way up miles away. But yeah, it's been fine.
Fun. California. It's getting cool here. Getting cool here in Toronto. Because this Canadian stereotypes is what we do. This week, as the title suggests, we're diving in like the rest of canon. Star Wars comics got a major reset in 2015 with Skywalker Strikes. You can kind of see it there. And its ongoing run begun by Jason Aaron. This was a new Darth Vader run by Kieron Gillen and a whole load of shorter books, spin-offs, and ongoing stories. Now that timeline between A New Hope and Return of the Jedi is jam-packed with wild adventures, compelling new characters, and some deep introspections on the trilogy that I think all Star Wars fans, I know I'm wearing this t-shirt, but all Star Wars fans, believe it or not, love the original trilogy. There we go. But there have been tons of comics set during the other two trilogies, and of course, the set of stories integral to the High Republic publishing initiative. Also to note, some of the greatest moments that we'll get into forge character connections between the trilogies through time, especially between the original trilogy and the prequels. So this week, as this current phase of comics comes to its really conclusion, this very week starts. We break down our favorite moments in canon stories from Marvel as well as Dark Horse and IDW. We'll do some quick plugs off the top. You can follow us at Iron Canon Pod, EYEONCANONPOD. That's on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads. Mostly Twitter, but a little bit of Threads here and there, a little bit of Instagram here and there. Here on the Star Wars Underworld YouTube channel, specifically, we got YouTube memberships. We've got super chats. So if you want to support the channel, support the network, we would be most grateful. Especially if we got the comments, we got the chats below. Throughout this thing, if you list your favorite comics moments, canon or legends, we'll take note of them. But if you super chat us, we'll top of the pile. Usually I try and see if it flows within the conversation. I highlight the comment, but if you super chat us, that is an automatic way for me for it to be in the flow of the conversation. So please do support the channel as best you can, as much as you're willing. We would be most grateful. Also, the Star Wars Underworld Discord server, the link in the description right down below. Check us out there. There's a canon discussion. There's a bit of like a paper canon discussion. There's films. There's talking about films, talking about TV and Disney Plus streaming, such as it is. Also Marvel, Star Trek, different cons. You want to learn Japanese if you're going to Celebration or going to follow Celebration, or you just feel like learning Japanese. There's a specific channel, I believe, for Japanese lessons. Is that right?
Yes. Well, language lessons.
We'll
keep it up in case anybody wants to just learn something else eventually.
Yeah, there we go. Well, for whatever the next Celebration is, if it's in Germany, if it's here in Canada, you'll learn Canadian.
French Canadian.
Well, if it's Montreal, that'll be something. I don't know what facility Montreal has, but for it. But they have a convention center. I don't know if it's big enough. Anyway, yeah, check the Discord server in the description below. Have there been any recent events in the Discord? Are there any upcoming?
Mostly just game nights, and maybe we'll do another game night this week. I haven't decided yet, but I'll do that.
Yeah. What do game nights entail?
Game nights entail either Fortnite, Overwatch, anything on the Switch. That was the Hunters, Star Wars Hunters. We'd like to play that. That's certainly been a lot of fun on the Switch.
Somebody like shares the screen or
no, it's like we all connect to our online thing accounts and then just have multiplayer games. So that's nice. While we play.
I mean, it is Discord. It's made for that. So
Yeah.
that's good. Fun times. So yeah, check out the link in the description below. Last but not least, if you love comics, this episode of Iron Canon is very comics heavy.
Oh, your mic again. Choose mic.
Another show. Oh, you love. We have another show that's entirely comics heavy. Talking comic reviews. Chris Abbott and I every Wednesday night. 9 p.m. We go through the comics that come out that day, including the Insider short story. I finally got my Insider issue, so we'll go through that as well. Inquisitors number 3 by Rodney Barnes, and of course ongoing. So that's what I meant by the eve of the conclusion of this phase of comics. The ongoing Star Wars ongoing by Charles Soule, number 50 of 50. Yeah, right, probably right up to the edge.
Oh, mic again.
Yeah, I think it's just. I think I just gotta eat it.
Yes.
Gotta eat it. Gotta project all that. Yeah. So check that out right here on the Star Wars Underworld YouTube channel at 19. I'm gonna see if that. Testing. What you think? Yeah. So here we go. Always making adjustments on the fly. So yeah, check out Tractor Beam comic reviews. Yeah, we're gonna have lots of fun. Also, I think it was 2 weeks ago. I did my Fan Expo Canada recap, which was also fairly comics heavy because shared my exclusive interviews with Lyman and Randy Barnes, visitors. So give that a watch. Right here on the YouTube channel and Twitch and Twitter and Facebook, wherever. Not Twitter, because Twitter doesn't work. Twitter's broken in multiple ways, but we're still on it. But we don't put comic podcasts on it. Yeah, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Check that out. It went really well.
Doesn't help our ego though when all those bots aren't watching us. Though we can say
I know. Oh, that's all right. We can pad our numbers otherwise. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Just kidding. All right. So yeah, check that out. Before we move on to more fun news, including comics news, I got a bit of a sad thing to mention right off the top. James Earl Jones goes without saying, pillar of Star Wars, one of the most important people in Star Wars history ever, and we don't even need to explain why. Although I will say, all of Via's event, basically all the moments, especially some of the key ones that I'm going to go into. I don't know about you, Joel. Heavily indebted. Every single author, comic book author, every single artist will say they heard James's voice when writing and when drawing the figure of Darth Vader. He is in A New Hope for 10 minutes and made a massive impact on it just by his voice. He is in a voice booth. From all accounts, probably one of the nicest, kindest fellows around, is from what I can tell. And yeah, just a giant and a legend. And here's the biggest understatement in the world. Star Wars would not be the same without it. It would not be good. I mean, it would still be okay, but it would not be what it is without James Earl Jones. Neither would Lion King, neither would Disney, all that. So he died at 93, a long, full life, long, full career. To go out with such a heavily respected person and figure. It's the way we all want to go out. So I raise my water bottle to you, James. Have anything to add?
No, just kind of it's sad, and it's kind of we're getting to that period where a lot of the classic Star Wars people aren't going to be around with us much longer.
Yep.
Like what George in his 80s, Harrison's in his 80s, Hamill's probably the youngest still in his 60s.
Yeah.
Carrie was a loss, a bit of a shocker. She was still kind of young. She was my mom's age, so
yeah,
she passed away. So we're getting to that point where all the classics are about to entering their final acts.
Yeah. Carrie, that was 8 years ago, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's true. I mean, that's time, like an ever rolling stream, bears all of us away, as the hymn goes. So, Yeah, again, we're just say we're grateful for everything he gave to us, to the world, to films, to Star Wars. So again, thank you, James. There you go. All right, to move on from that, because you gotta move on. Got a bit of comics news. Chris and I on Wednesday talked about it on the tractor beam, just a little bit, quite a bit, and then I promised to bring it up tonight because, it's first of all to say a really great jumping on point. If you haven't gotten into comics or you want to get back into comics, this is your shot. This is it right here. Battle of Jakku, maxi series, 12-issue maxi series. It comes out in less than a month, in about 3 weeks. October 2nd, number 1 of Insurgency Rising. So yeah, and then Marvel released the full set of covers. So I'll do that and pop those up there. And these are the covers. These are like the virgin covers, I guess. So without the actual Battle of Jakku titles or anything, but really great art by, of course, Phil Noto, Torrin Clark, Davide Paratore, EM Gist, and others right there. I noted on Wednesday that a lot of the covers feature the big three, a lot of Luke in there, and a whole bunch of Mon Mothma. So really highlighting, first of all, saying we're finally getting Luke's story more of. It suggests that, and getting more of Mon Mothma's story, because we have a bunch of Mon Mothma. I mentioned this in the Aftermath trilogy, especially Empire's End and also Arquette, but we don't have that much. We have next to nothing of Luke, and so
We don't have anything.
like, we have one thing in the Battlefront 2 campaign. We have like 20 minutes. So this suggests at least that he's gonna have a lot more to do here. So and we're finally, at least we're getting his story in this year between Endor and Jakku. What was he up to, at least in terms of the lead up to the battle, right? And that's the thing. This is the lead up to the battle
itself, maybe.
And the battle itself, it looks like with Last Stand. And of course Empire's End did. Also to note, Insurgency Rising number 2 there, certain Daimyo Bib Fortuna, which makes me think, first off, of course we see him, the cookie, the fortune cookie at the end of Mandalorian season 2, whatever it was.
Yes.
Kind of the Book of Boba Fett teaser thing. And then in Outlaws, this is a bit of a spoiler.
Oh yeah, we have to mention Outlaws.
Yeah, he shows up, and this is, I was actually watching Chris Abbott's live stream on starraptor.com, youtube.com/starraptor, STARRAPTER. I know how to spell that. And Bib is already working with the Imperial Remnant ish.
It's not the Remnant, it's the Empire.
Oh, sorry, it's the Empire, but at this point it's the Remnant now. To make sure he's set, make sure he's okay. And then you see him here in the Daimyo seat, which we saw in Mandalorian. And so it makes me wonder if there's going to be some connection to Outlaws in that little bit there. So I guess it's a cutscene. We see him in Outlaws. So anyway, I've gabbed a lot here. Both podcasts. Joel, take it. What do you think of these covers? What stands out to you?
Oh, they're very nice. I think what stands out to me is Governor Aladin. There was from the one of the first ever post-Endor stories on a mobile game. Right. I find it funny. It's been like this mobile game, and yet it's been popping up everywhere in books and comics. And now, like, looks like we might actually get a story of this little remnant led by this dude. And an actual storyline is like it's going to be a Luke storyline, so I find that funny. No, I think it's an interesting, it's like this is sort of the missing piece of what I call the aftermath. There, you got like the macro story with Tam and all those cats. You got a little bit of Han layer kind of in there. You got like little side stuff with like Battlefront 2. And, you got squadrons in there. But now it's like it's like, how do you not oversaturate it? It's like, well, you still got Luke's story. Yeah. You have no idea what he's been up to. So, like, what's Luke been up to during the Battle of Jakku? And I think this is going to make a good interval period before we enter the true reset of Marvel Comics with
Yeah.
probably new number ones again and whatnot.
Yeah, it was Governor Adelon in the not Chom, whatever sector Bespin's in.
Toronto sector.
No, Chommel's Naboo.
Okay.
I forget what it was. Is that right? Yeah, that's right. I know he's the one, the holdout. He's this holdout on Cloud City, pretending the Emperor's still alive. Oh, this is the aftermath interludes, right?
Yes.
So that's where I know him from. I know you and Chris Abbott know him from the handheld, the mobile game as well. Handheld game, mobile game. It raises an interesting Luke here. It raises an interesting question. You know, clearly they intentionally left this gap for him. Did they leave that gap for? And so the question is why, right? Did they leave it for screen stuff? Did they leave it for screen stuff to say? And then the screen folks, Favaloni and them said, "No, go ahead, fill in his backstory here." Were they leaving it for? Because we know the ongoing comic would have to lead things into it to kind of. I mean, this seems actually makes. Now I'm talking about this, makes the most sense to me. Is they were saying, well, we know the main ongoing run is going to be focused on him to some extent. It has to get him to that moment of Return of the Jedi. He also shows up in the Darth Vader comic. By Greg Pak. Fantastic moments. Didn't make my list, but honorable mentions. But yeah, yeah, we should have done honorable mentions. I should do honorable mentions. Anyway, should have written those down.
I should have done some too. I have.
I'll do them off the top of my head. But yeah, to say okay, because that's the thing. It's if there's anything that is definitely going to be a discipline of continuity in, it's the very same medium. So this is in a way still continuing the story that Charles Soule is concluding this Wednesday, has concluded this Wednesday. But yeah, has Mom Mothman. It has different folks. I don't see any Lando on the cover. Oh, there he is. Republic Under Siege #1. I guess he's in there. But yeah, other than that, yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. I don't think they planned that. I don't think they've ever planned that far ahead with things. That's like a what is this, year 10 of
yeah.
That's like
well, I mean refusing to plan, like saying let's just wait to see what Charles does with this character, and then Alex Segura, who's writing this, who wrote the Poe Dameron comic or Poe Dameron novel, YA novel, Free Fall. So okay, Alex, carry on what Charles has laid down in this. And,
I mean, I think in that sense, yes. I doubt like waiting for Luke Skywalker. I doubt they planned this story comes 10 years ahead.
No, again, what I'm saying is that they intentionally chose not to plan.
Oh, okay.
That's what I'm saying. It's saying we're not going to plan what Luke's story looks like in this because we know that the ongoing comic is going to focus on him, and so I hope if they have that if they have that kind of foresight too, which I think they might. The story group might. They're smart folks. They're smart cookies. So just thinking about that, I don't know. What would you say if you glancing on this quickly? What's your favorite cover?
Ooh, my favorite cover. I don't know. I like the Governor Adelon with Vader one. That's pretty snazzy.
What is that one?
But I also like the Star Destroyer one. It's like the last one. That's pretty good too. They're all pretty good. I'd be curious.
Governor
maybe
Adelon with Vader. Where's that one?
That's Republic Under Siege, the fourth one.
Oh, interesting.
Yes, you got that.
I gotta look at full screen here.
I wonder if they're gonna fill in the gap of Bib Fortuna's time as the Daimyo before Boba Fett shoots him down. He's like, well, that's a gap. I mean, they got like 5 years of Bib Fortuna just running Tatooine into the ground before Boba Fett got to clean everything up. So I can see that happening.
An ongoing by Ethan Sachs.
That'd be cool.
Again, if this is the era they're going into, then there's going to be lots of different things, different stories, different books. So, yeah.
Chaos.
For some reason, I think I like Last Stand #1.
That's a good one too. I like the Akbar head.
Yeah. And Last Stand #2. Now the just ones. Although I will say the who's this Torrin Clark in Republic Under Siege, those ones all have a nice consistency to them. I mean, they all do, but I mean, Phil Noto's has all of his covers are pretty much a similar idea.
Is this an anthology kind of thing, or is this like a focus on just Luke? I'm not quite sure what the story is.
I think. I mean, I mean, sense. I don't know, but like, I think each arc is gonna be connected. It seems be pretty connected. At least that's the suggestion here.
I got it.
So, but yeah, pick that up. Comment. We just did a few minutes ago. So when this is done, when this show's done, that's the nice thing about YouTube. Or you can scroll back right now. You'll just have to catch up. But yes, we just did talk about James Earl Jones just a little bit today. Probably going to talk about him some more on Wednesday, and then I'm guessing the flagship on Thursday is going to do a bunch more. That's my guess. But yes, James Earl Jones. Anyways, thanks for that comment though. Sorry, I figured I'd interject with that one. Yeah. So anyway, do you have any last thoughts on on these pretty cool covers?
Nope. I'm just excited to see where everything is going.
Mhm.
It seems like people are getting really excited for comics. Seems like this is a good
Yeah.
shot in the arm for
True.
comic fans. So excited.
Like what happens after this? You mean? Because I mean,
Oh,
we
well,
know
this too,
Yeah,
this and what happens after.
Yeah,
I think we all want to know what Luke was doing during the Battle of Jakku.
that's true. That is true. Fun times. All right. Yeah. So that's the next moments in comics, next era in comics, as of course this one comes to an end, and it's time for us to look back on our top 5 moments in comics.
All right, I'll get this going.
Mhm.
We didn't have a place to put honorable mention. We can do that before our number one.
I got a place. Yeah, we can do them now.
Okay, let's do them now then. All right, so top
Well,
five.
first of all, maybe set up the topic.
Right. Top 5 moments in comics. Star Wars comics have been going on since 2013, since the reboot.
2015.
Right.
Yeah.
Was it 2015?
Skywalker Strikes was 2015.
Okay, yes, that was the first comic. Never mind, 2015. So we've been going on for almost 10 years. Wow. And in that time, there's been lots of fun comic book moments, lots of fun, wacky adventures, all sorts of things. And we're here to talk about just the moments, not the arcs themselves, not the stories, but just those little moments, those scenes that really stick out.
I kind of cheat a little bit, full disclosure.
Oh, I do. I do. So don't worry. I have one that's totally a cheat. So before we begin our top 5, let's do some honorable mentions. Let's stick to maybe like 1, maybe 2 honorable mentions.
Yeah.
I only really have 1 honorable mention I can really think off the top of my head. So I'll go first with this one. My honorable mention number 1 is Vader versus Momin on Mustafar. Really fun moment.
Yeah.
Love seeing ancient weird Sith dude and Vader fight. Love the discussion they have about moments like how like the Sith just lost their way, getting all bent out of shape about focusing on the Jedi and losing like the artisticness of the dark side. It's very cool, very interesting. I remember back in the day, we were like, "Is this how Palpatine's going to come back? We could open into a portal from new worlds." Lots of speculation at that time, and lots of fun for a very good, Vader run comics. Since I said we can do at least up to 2, I'll cheat. My number 2 honorable mention is the Charles Soule Mon Calamari Vader art. I don't know, I just really like it. It's very fun. It's very just epic, especially when it's going on with the Gillen run in the future. So like those 2 Mon Cal art at the same time. So that was really cool. So those are my 2 honorable mentions. All right, Matthew, you 1 or 2 honorable mentions.
Yeah, I guess Darth Moment isn't mine, but the whole thing of building that castle, that's just such a ride. And Moment's such a fantastic character idea. Yeah, shoot, how to pick just 1. I think
you can pick 2 if you want.
Oh, I got 4. It came to mind immediately. I'll do them. I'll run them quickly. Sava, Madeline Sun, and the Jedi that we did a whole episode on in Crimson Reign, I believe, number 3. Rogue Squadron. Luke in Hope dies. Hope comes to life, defying the General's orders. This is Rogue Squadron. We're gonna, that was great. Exciting moment. Shoot, what were the other ones? Sabe coming out, doing a thing, showing up, and all the ways that in the Greg Pak comic, all the ways that brings out Attack of the Clones. So the Attack of the Clones flashbacks and that are kind of part and parcel. And Kira coming back, that reveal in where is it?
Or the Bounty Hunters?
Where the Bounty Hunters Alpha. I believe it's Alpha number 1. Yeah, that fuss that Charles always likes to cause. So yeah, those are my honorable mentions, but yeah, we got a whole bunch more to go through. So I'll let you take it away with number 5, and I'll let you guide us through.
Right, here we go. All right. Oh shoot, nice thing. Okay, there you go. All right. So let's begin the official top 5 moments in comics. Oh, shoot. I almost read my list wrong. I wrote it. Okay. So
read it bottom up then.
I know. I almost read top down for like a half second. So my number 5, Kieron Gillen Vader, the very last issue, and I really like that moment where Palpatine talks to Vader at the end after Vader kind of passes all the tests and stuff, and Palpatine's like, "Congrats, you're really a Sith Lord." There we go. On my what I did. I just really like that moment. I like Vader, like Palpatine giving like Vader like the bridge version of Sith history, like years ago, we numbered in the thousands, but we kept killing each other, and then thankfully Darth Vader said we had to only be 2 of us. Like I don't know, there's just something about that moment. I'm butchering it because I didn't go back to look at the moments. So I just really like. There's something about, especially like just Palpatine giving like the brief history of Sith history. It's just really, really impactful. And like how he's just like like the ball with a loss, but Lord Tyrannus, he was a missile. And you were the one I was gonna hopefully do, but then you screwed up on Mustafar. That was really sucky. But you got back on your feet again, and you finally proven yourself at last. You're not disappointed. Congrats. I don't know. I just really like that little talk they have. It's just there's something about it. It's like, yeah, I really there's something really interesting about that moment. So Kieron Gillen, Palpatine Vader talk.
I should do a counter, like a doomsday clock counter about how concerned I am about your fascination with Sith lore. How much you just, yeah, that's on brand for you. Very on brand. Number 5 for me. You mentioned it's one of your honorable mentions. Mutiny on the Burning Sea. I call it Mutiny on the Burning Sea because it's the Mutiny on Mancala, which is
that's the Soul arc, right?
That's the in the ongoing.
Oh, okay.
Then the Burning Seas is in the Vader. And
right.
One of the things I just loved about that is, I mean, that's really an early-ish example of a crossover, but it's a crossover 20 years apart, right? The Burning Seas one that takes place, it's Vader 2017, 13 to 17, by Charles Soule. Of course, that takes place, a few years after the Clone Wars, after Revenge of the Sith, and with Lee Char trying to resist the Empire, and by using the recently fresh feud with the Quarren during the Clone Wars to get the foothold there, and of course the consequences of resisting the Empire of King Lee Char, resisting the Empire, coming home to roost in Mutiny on Mancala in the ongoing 2015. Near the end of that one, actually, number 44, kind of still the middle, actually. I forgot that one had 75 issues. Number 44 to 49 by Kieron Gillen. And yeah, just the way, and even that one setting up things about, or I guess it's Mutiny on the Burning Sea, picking up on things with the Mace Windu comic, one of the Inquisitors, as a former Jedi we saw there, and yeah, again, the way clearly there's a sense clearly they were in cahoots. They were really making Kieron Gillen, Charles Soule, the whole gang was starting to really was making not starting. They were making sure things were going to click story wise together, and they were in communication. They're really in cahoots. And one of the a few of these moments I mentioned one of the things it is just introducing this for the first time, at least in canon, getting things off the bat early. And this is this is a few years in. It's in 2017, I guess 2018. But yeah, really previewing High Republic and the kind of conversation there, previewing the whole Kira Crimson Rain Crimson Dawn saga and the communication there. And so yeah, here you got to imagine Charles and Kieron saying, "Let's talk this out. Let's make these story beats work." Because it'll be like they're releasing one after the other, and so that was just really for completists like me to really piece things together. Oh yeah, Lee Char, he's being unconscious and imprisoned because he's being held captive by the Empire, so that the Empire can. Here's the kicker: so the Empire can just have a hold on Moncala, and tighten its fingers on that resistance. The more you tighten your fingers, the more star systems. The more you close your fist, the more star systems slip through your fingers. And
tighten your fist,
this is
slip through your fingers.
And so yeah, this is we see because Mon Calamari they're not in A New Hope. The home one, it's in the Empire Strikes Back. So this is Mon Calamari. The Mon Calamari is slipping through the Empire's fingers in this. So yeah, great moment. If you want to comment with more on Mutiny or on the Mon Cala stuff, go ahead.
Oh yeah. Also the Rogue One references, right? We have Admiral Radis there.
Sure.
In
Where's like Captain Radis at this point?
That's right. We got Captain Radis there. We got Akbar obviously is there. We see the Mon Cala fleet just zoom off.
Mm-hmm.
So that was really cool. Also, kind of funny that during the whole during Rise of Skywalker, they've been doing a third Mon Cala arc set in the First Order times, which I found funny. Which had Akbar's son, who did appear in the movie, as a background character. So you got Akbar Jr. there.
This in the Poe comic?
No, this is its own. This is an independent, like a mini series. I want to say it's called Resistance. No, it's not called Resistance 4. It's its own series.
Comic book? I don't remember that.
I mean, it's not that impressive, but it's
No, I would have remembered it still. I don't know. I know there was the like allegiances.
Oh, maybe that's it. It's Star Wars Allegiance.
Yeah, which I think Mark Guggenheim may have written that one.
I don't remember anymore, but it was it was Star Wars Allegiances. It was a mini series. It was So I found it funny, like that kind of built off of those two comics as well. That comic came out in October 30th, 2019. So that was.
I do remember that one. Ethan Sachs wrote that one. Okay, Ethan wrote that one. And, I do remember that one. So yeah, that's true.
So there we got that one, and of course the Inquisitor. Is it she or he?
It's a he. He was a blind Inquisitor who was the beginning of the Clone Wars. He's incredibly skeptical of the Republic.
Okay, I think I'm thinking of a different one. I'm thinking of the brute one, or is it the brute? Are they like a big fella, big Inquisitor?
No, kind of a bit normal human height.
Okay, but I do think the big Inquisitor is also in that comic, and they appear in the Jedi Fallen Order game.
Probably, yeah. The seventh sister or the third sister or whatever.
Yeah, that one's that Inquisitor's also in there as well. So I enjoyed that. So that's the reason why. And I just remember the comic being very action packed and fun. Yeah. So that's a good arc to have on your moments. So yeah. All right. My number 4. Rise and Fall of Kylo Ren. The Kylo talks to Snoke scene. We need more Snoke moments. I need Snoke. I like seeing him in a different outfit. That's kind of cool. With the hat in the space station. In the
AMX Station.
Yeah, the first appearance of the AMX Space Station.
Yeah.
Is it the first? No, well, Maxine Warriors are mentioned in Bloodline, but Space
Yeah,
Station.
that's the first appearance of the station.
Right, so we get to see that. I want to. Charles Soule will never give us an answer because I think A, he's probably not allowed to, and B, they probably don't know. But I do wonder when Soule was writing Snoke's line, like I was not born Snoke, I became Snoke, and all that. Like, I wonder what Charles Soule's headcanon for Snoke's background was, because later in the issue, you would see, creepy Palpatine.
Yeah.
So it's like, did they tell him like, oh, Snoke's, a creation of Palpatine, like, or did Soule like sure, but like Snoke also got like has this whole history and past too, kind of thing going on. So that's cool. I like how the Kylo's like sort of like talking about how like Kylo just like his silly name of Skywalker and Solo mushed together.
I don't remember
Snoke.
That.
Yeah, Snoke. Kylo's like all mad. He's like, like I don't even know these people, and everyone's expecting me to be as important as this dead grandpa who I never met in my life and I don't care about really.
Yeah.
Also Snoke gives Kylo Ren a hug. That's creepy. Hugs from Snoke, everyone. And it's interesting. Like, and also like a cute little moment of like, although this is another one of those continuity things where like, where in the timeline is this? Where like the little robots think like, Brendel Hux is calling you. So like, I always got confused. I'm never quite sure. Like, okay, so this is before Brendel Hux died in Phasma, but Phasma joined them recently. But then Hux died, So it's one of those things that like,
yeah,
one of those things where like, okay, where in the timeline's really happening here. I also kind of wonder if like, is Snoke in charge of the First Order yet, or is he like, or is he just he delegate, or is Snoke just good at delegating enough that he can spend time in the weird garden and like let everyone else do the work? Which I can totally see, because Palpatine didn't do a lot of the day-to-day business of the Empire; he just left it to everybody else. So I don't know. Sorry, there's that. But overall, I really like this moment. I want, if I kind of want to see, I kind of would, like if Snoke is to be relegated to paper canon character, which I kind of hope not, because I do want to see him again on screen at least once. I wouldn't mind Charles Soule kind of expanding on Snoke and kind of like, I don't know, getting to just expand on whatever headcanon mesh with what we actually know about Snoke he had, kind of continue that on. But that was it's a good moment, and I really like it.
I want to see Snoke in a hat more.
I want to see Snoke in different outfits. That'd be
different outfits with a hat. It's so funny. Yeah, you realize this is the second like master apprentice sort of dark side thing. Bring at it. That's a fun moment. And a fun moment, an interesting moment. You see kind of more gentle side to Snoke, and that's partly what the wardrobe is about. And showing us the AMX Station for the first time. Picking that name out of Bloodline and saying, here's the station. Little do we know. Little do we know, but Charles did definitely know by that point what the AMX Station really was and what all that foliage and fauna was about, and that we would find out soon enough. But it was again, trying to remember,
I do have one more moment about that scene I forgot, which I just remembered right now. Kylo says that Snoke, your face, it's all deformed and stuff. That's an interesting moment, because it's literally like it's implied that Luke did something to Snoke's face, but like that's always kind of confusing now, because like we see the other Snokes and they're all deformed. It's like, is Snoke just lying? And like, does Kylo like? That's always kind of the one thing about Snoke and Kylo that I don't know. Is like, is this the first time they've met, or did Kylo actually meet Snoke before, but Snoke looked more handsome? I've always wondered that now.
Well, if you watch the Lord of the Rings prequel, The Rings of Power, his fellow named Sauron.
True.
It looks pretty good. It's a good question. I mean, one of those things. I mean, that's the thing with the sequel trilogy is, the backstories and what the film Bibles said and whatever, things changed as JJ decided this is what's going to happen. And Chris Terrio decided that's what's going to happen. I do think by the time this comic comes out, I mean, this comic came out after Rise of Skywalker did.
No, it came out before.
Oh, but it came out after the trailer, after Celebration. So we knew Palpatine was in it somehow. So yeah, I definitely remember the little at the very end, the little cackling, Sheev cackling. Yeah, showing Snoke far more genteel, far more comforting, which is one of the things that the dark side can do. They're not Sith, but the dark side, they have the carrot and they have the stick. Seeing Snoke with the carrot here. I plucked one off plucked the Drengir carrot here. There you go. Yeah, but after Kylo's destroyed the cave on Dagobah, destroyed or well, not he didn't destroy it.
He destroyed the academy.
Yeah, well, Snoke's destroyed the academy. That's the so and Snoke or Palpatine via Snoke or who knows what. Yeah, it'd be interesting. I do know. I mean, Charles is very hesitant to talk about what he thinks is happening in the sequel trilogy. He has ways to sort it out, but yeah, I think this was kind of his statement on the character of Kylo Ren more than anything. The statement on the character, the way he gets involved in, meets up with the Wrens, and then of course when he gets to know Snoke and comes under his employ. Yeah, I mean, like you said, if Sheev can go to Mustafar when he has an empire to start, but he still has time to go to Mustafar, then Snoke can go to the AMX Station, even though he has a first order to run.
Do some gardening.
Well, that's another thing with Brendel chiming in there, calling in. Hey, we need final approval on this thing. You're okay. You're George Lucas okay to on the on the storyboard there, the storyboard for Stark. So yeah, it's a pretty good moment.
I'm sorry. Now I just have this image of Snoke with all these generals, and he had a highlighter, yep, and then just hugs it
how are we gonna make this? Yeah, there we go. Yeah. I get to move on to my number 4.
Yeah, go.
Finally got to get a High Republic entry in here.
Yeah.
Could not, and it is one moment. And finally, I got to one moment. This is The Path Reveals Its Hand, and this is High Republic Phase 2, number 4, written by Kevin Scott. The Herald, the Convocation, and the Tolerance Paradox. And I love this. I always love moments that really, I mean, almost like I love exposition that is very revelatory. Oddly enough, it's one of the things I just eat up because we're finally because I mean, what I love is all the build up and the build up to it is, the path. They're kind of decent. They're kind of just these farmers, this commune on Dalna, but here they are on Jedi. Here's the Herald and not Marta, Yana, and saying, okay, Marta tried to get there before, but now Yana is there with the Herald saying, let's have a place in the galaxy, have our place in the galaxy, have a voice, have a seat at the table. The Herald goes in this meeting to get a seat at the table, says the table is bunk. You guys are all wrong. We refuse to accept anything you care about or believe in, but give us a seat at the table. You're unjust to give us a seat to not give us a seat at the table. And it's finally just coming out with the problem of wanting to when you're given the opportunity to actually to really make things happen, there's always ways to make things happen in the grassroots on the outside and with protest politics. There's also the aspect of diplomacy and working with the system as it is to move the needle a little bit, and that both in effective movements both sit together, both work together. You have MLK in the White House signing the Civil Rights Act, right? With Lyndon Johnson signing the Civil Rights Act, and you have him on the National Mall with the "I Have a Dream" speech, right? Here, there is no. First of all, when he, first of all, there's no going to the White House, going to the Oval Office. It's just you're going to go in there, but it's bunk. So what's the path going to do? What's the convocation going to do? They're going to kick them out. also that's also just a tactic, because instead of the calm nonviolence of the I Have a Dream speech, it's these Jedi are corrupt. How dare they, inciting this riot that begins this battle that costs countless lives. And yeah, again, it's just this fascinating again, the tolerance paradox of how far can you tolerate intolerance? Can you tolerate tolerate people who are a movement that claims to want to be part of things but refuses to actually be part of things, and his sole aim is to tear everything down, and showing what it's part of this again. And I love it because it's just very satisfying to see it, right? Satisfying to see between that and the path of vengeance, these moments where the path becomes denial, where they have the seeds of denial in them. And this was again a very revelatory moment on Jeddah in the convocation of the Force, where these things get worked out to some extent, in the relationships behind the scenes. I don't know how much debate and meaningful debate happens in this kind of little parliament of world religions, a little, if you will. But yeah, I mean, it's exactly it. If you imagine going to an interfaith conference dialogue and saying, we want to see at this table, but we don't believe interfaith dialogue is legitimate. How dare they? Yeah. So it's again, it is fascinating just to show, are they actually an oppressed minority, or are they kind of the folks who claim oppression but are willing to do the oppressing? So again, Kevin Scott, knowing his world religions, knowing his new religions, new religious movements, and the complexities. Some of them are just trying to make their way and have their time. I know I'm doing a theology moment here, but this presses it. And some of them are, we're the only ones who are right, and that's the tolerance paradox being, we're different. If a group is different, but it's simply trying to make their way, the powers that be are required to make space for them. If it's a group that says, no, we want to burn it all down, I mean, that's tricky with contemporary protest politics, because I'm sympathetic to some folks who have that kind of anger, that protest anger. But to have, that's the thing, is that the path of the open hand had the potential to have that complexity of being able to do both at the same time. And on Jeddah, and with the influence of the mother behind the scenes here, I mean, she's kind of disavowing him, but in the scenes, pulling the strings, leading the path to this darker place that great grandmother ends up going to and leading and taking charge. Here it the convocation isn't right to give them a seat at the table, and the way they use that, the Herald uses that to stir the riot. So that's why I don't know how familiar you are with this arc, but
I'm familiar with the Battle of Jeddah, the story. So I mean, no, I think it's a very interesting discussion. I remember. Well, I can tie it to the acolyte here for a second.
Yeah.
That'd be fun. It reminds me of when the Daughters of Ferrix episode, we had those our friends on. We were talking about, what the stranger Kymir was talking about. It's like he wants to be free to do what he wants and practice his ways, but the Jedi won't let him because the Jedi are the powers that be. It's very interesting. It's like on the one hand, you don't want to ban religion. Banning religion is like that's a slippery slope. But on the other hand, it's like, well, they're the Sith, and we know what the Sith are all about.
Mm-hmm.
We know what they're going to become about in about 100 more years.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, it's like, well, should we make Sith illegal? Should that be a thing? Should they be illegal?
Mm-hmm.
And that's a tricky question, in reality. So I think a lot about that in terms of like High Republic connections and stuff like that. But I don't remember the actual scene that much in the comic. But good moment.
Yeah, I remember. I will say, interestingly, that's again that episode 3 of the Acolyte. After that
That's
episode,
5. That's 5.
I know, but I'm like episode 3. Sorry, my brain went to episode 3, with the Coven, because after that, the Daughters of Ferrix, they reshared their episode about the path of the open hand and intolerance,
Good
intolerant
episode.
minorities, and and just bringing up this question of, so that's an interesting question for them, right? You give space, room for Mother Anastasia, but you don't give room for Mother Coral, right? And that's the thing. I know some folks would have preferred to switch the two, but that's again the way the Acolyte bringing up a High Republic theme. I'm sure I get Leslie. Bet Jenny might have Leslie had read this comic. At least she knows about it. Anyway, that's my number 4.
All right. My number 3 is one that probably predicted would be on this list, and that is Vader goes to Exegol. I mean, it's Vader going to Exegol. What more can I say? It's like, it's like, oh my god.
Any and all Exegol you're good with.
Yeah. Put them in my veins. Just that first time you go to Exegol, it's like, yay. It's like, it's very much a, it's like, oh, okay. So like it's filling in the gaps finally of like, oh, okay. So Palpatine's had the Exegol stuff up and running at least since Empire Strikes Back, and actually, thanks to Shadow of the Sith, we can deduce that he's had it up even longer than that because Dathon was 10 years old. Dathon's a aging enhanced clone, so he ages normally. So he was raised there for 10 years. So he's had at least 10 years before even Empire Strikes Back. So that assumes he's had even longer, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
He's had the whole Sith Eternal cult factions thing. Whether or not Palpatine found it or not, it's always one of those hard things to discern. I had a conversation about this on a Discord server. But my point is, it's like, it's like, okay, we're finally building something on Exegol, and it's like, okay, that makes a lot more sense now. It's like, where did Palpatine get all this stuff from after Endor? It's like, did his spirit just find it? It's like they just started building right away. It's like, oh no, he's had this for a while, so this makes all sorts of sense. And it's just cool seeing weird Sith monsters thingies and Proto Snokes and all that good stuff. So, and also you can see Ochi lose his eyes and go, my eyes. So, I don't have much to say, like, on a deeper sense. It's just Vader on Exegol. It's really cool and creepy.
Yeah, I just remembered another honorable mention. When Vader goes back to Exegol, and in the crystal has this vision of Luke, and also there's another moment with this kind of confessional crystal with Luke as well. Any kind of Vader or Luke stuff in the Greg Pak comic is also an honorable mention for me generally. Yeah, this one on Exegol at the beginning of the Greg Pak comic, changes one of the ways that these comics change the way you view the original trilogy a little bit, right?
Certainly the sequels probably a little bit more.
Especially the sequels, but again, this is shortly after Empire Strikes Back, and Palpatine has already well established this plan to set his immortality in stone, and he's already, again, this far back, started the Sith fleet, the Sith Eternal fleet, and you see them, and you see all these crystals and everything he's set in motion, just in the background, quietly set away. It changes it points even what Palpatine is thinking in the original trilogy to the sequel trilogy. It makes a character bridge through time, through these trilogies, and to see Exegol with Vader in the original trilogy, I think that's partly what you're drawn to there. Is it's always very incredibly exciting moment.
That is sort of the fortunate you ask for the nature of just bringing back Palpatine. You kind of have to, I don't want to say you retcon the character, but you definitely kind of have to change the intent of the character as which you see it in Return of the Jedi. And Dominic's brought this up, if you don't mind going through the tangent for a second. In Return of the Jedi, and this is kind of compounded with the prequels. Palpatine's kind of done, and by done I mean he's kind of just bored because like his end goal was just okay, get the Empire. I got the Empire. I'm just gonna kind of be lounge here for like 30 years, just ultimate power. Yeah, like it's a little bit of boredom almost with Palpatine.
Talk, what do we do?
Once you add a Dark Empire did this in the 90s with Legends and Rise of Skywalker did as well. What you do by adding the clone Sith Eternal stuff is that you say, oh, what you saw was just part one. Getting the Empire was part one of the plan. Part two was basically just ascend to godhood now, and you thus then retcon a little bit of Return of the Jedi in terms of like the intent behind it, and now you have to kind of retroactively add that. Oh, Palpatine has all these schemes and other things going on now. Like it wasn't just get the Empire. Okay, I'm done. To get the Empire, like now I gotta look into this more stuff. Now I gotta look into the Forbidden World. Now I gotta get a clone up and running. Now I gotta get Exegol. I gotta prepare a new, almost like build an empire within an empire, so that I can destroy the old empire with all the annoying bureaucrats and non-Force believers, and then I can just replace them all with fanatical cis people, and we can all do weird cis rituals together. Dark Empire, cis Empire forever, mask off. We don't even pretend that we're a republic with just an empire. Like, now you're a full-on dark side religious cult, and this is our empire. And stuff like this comic just pieces that stuff together, and also Rise and Fall of the Empire. So a bit rambly, but that's kind of. I think I'm just adding here.
Yeah, I mean, I get the point, and again, this is that basic, not basic, this the fundamental issue with the sequel trilogy and its existence, and I don't feel that issue as much anymore. But yeah, like you said, Return of the Jedi. And, well, this isn't what you said, but it kind of what may be implied here. The Return of the Jedi is the end of the story until it isn't, right?
That's it. That's
the defeat of Palpatine until it isn't, and I guess I think what part of what Dom is getting at is, if you don't bring Palpatine back, then the sequel trilogy has a chance to reflect on the legacy of the past, rather than having to resolve its own problem. That could have been its own problem. Well, get a new problem. Figure that out.
Snoke or Kylo Ren.
Yeah, exactly. So, but that being said, yeah, it was a great job by Greg Pak to really fill things in there and say, hey, it's been going on, and that being said, so this is kind of where I say we've been prepared for it. We were prepared for it with everything with Palpatine and Gallius Rax in the Aftermath trilogy. He always, and maybe that's partly a note from the store group to Chuck. Hey, Chuck, we have this kind of possibility of how episode 9 is going to go. At the very least, this is in accord with his character. He does want to live forever. He doesn't care about anything else and anyone else. So we're going to build that up. And also, we got that in Bad Batch. What I see is the underbelly, the underside of the Yoda arc, in Clone Wars, right? Palpatine wants immortality by controlling the Force. Yoda, Qui-Gon gains immortality by surrendering to the Force. And so there's still immortality is at play. From the first time we hear Obi-Wan's voice in A New Hope, Horse Ghost, that's in play. These ideas and hopes for the afterlife, for the life to come. And so there's opportunity to explore that, because again, this maybe kind of relates to James Earl Jones, right? What we believe about death is partly what we believe about a life well lived, and a meaningful life, and therefore a meaningful death, and at least our memory of him. I don't know what James Earl Jones personally believes. I know what I personally believe, but and that's where the thought comes from, is what we believe about what life is afterwards defines, has a powerful way of defining how we live well for others, because we're going to be either living well for others or living for ourselves, and hopefully not, but hopefully everyone is able to live well for others. or not, unless you just believe everything is temporary. And then there's also humility there potentially, or nihilism. But that's the thing with Palpatine. He does believe in this kind of nihilism, and therefore he's trying to prevent it and stall it.
Right.
And so it fits with his character to have plans within plans to prevent and stall it from the beginning. And so that,
Yeah.
bring that.
I would. I'm hesitant about Aftermath because of what I know about the episode 9's internal
Sure.
production. Especially because it really does seem Palpatine returned was when JJ came on board, and that started around
That
September.
was later, yeah.
And I think Aftermath 3 was already over, and I think
Sure.
it just kind of was lucky that everything about the contingency and Operation Cinder just kind of worked into a Palpatine's going to come back plan. So there's that. But no, I agree, and I think one reason I think bringing back Palpatine is like the least problematic element of Episode 9, regardless of what you did with it, is because Star Wars was already building up to the idea of like Palpatine looking for immortality. Even the Yoda arc was like the victory for all time is Jedi are Force ghosts; they can live forever. This can't. Once they're dead, they're dead. Bringing back Palpatine in a very ghoulish, clone, decayed form. You can say, oh, but that, maybe I can understand for some people that's a bridge too far for them, but for me, that would, if you're going to do it, that's the way to do it. You don't bring him back in a healthy, fit body. You do it in like this is not right. This is not natural. This is how a Sith would come back in a very painful way, but they're gonna endure it because they're too scared to die, and that's why Yoda at the end of the day, he won because it's like I can come back in Force Ghost and be fine. You, on the other hand, have to come back as the pain all the time clone. Whether or not you think they executed that right in the movie, that's one thing, but on just a thematic level, so much of the Palpatine stuff has been nicely knitted into the wider thematic tapestry of Star Wars that it really makes sense. But yeah, that's I feel like kind of diverging a little bit from the moment. But
I mean, this is what we do at Canon. We follow trains of thought here. Everything. Everyone from Chuck Wendig, James Lucino, reflecting on this idea, right? That the dark side, they want to have mastery over life and death, and death because they're afraid, right? That's a great point. They're just, this fear drives them, and this hate drives them, and so it's lucky, sure, but it fits with his character for Chuck to put him in and write this in and say, at least the very least to say Palpatine's responsible for the First Order going to the unknown regions.
Oh yeah,
that makes sense. So anyway, for Greg Pak then to actually, for JJ and Terrio to fill that in, but Greg Pak to bridge the gap there. Great moment.
Everything I've heard about Terrio is that he doesn't follow the books and comics, or what I've heard. Pablo said on it.
He does think more deeply about things than JJ does. That's my sense. I know that's a mean comparison, but like I remember there's the episode 9 featurette. He had a copy of Heir to the Empire on his desk. Why not?
Yeah, but I've always heard more. Yeah. But anyway, do you want to go to your numbers?
Yeah, I'll go to my number 3. She's got to show up on this one. Chelly's got to show up on this one. And
I was wondering when an Afro moment.
The definitive Chelly moment, the climactic Chelly moment is Chelly, the Spark Eternal, and Salvation of Her Soul. And this is from Dr. Afra 2020, numbers 22 to 30. This is a whole chunk of the issue by Alyssa Wong and Minkyu Jung, whole chunk of the comic book. And so because what happens is she's trying to figure out the Ascendant, trying to I don't know, get to the bottom what's happening there. Kofan Ferris is leading her into the basement of Barleth. under the basement of this university is this ancient temple for this ancient Force, kind of anti-Force cult, dark side cult that use magnets instead of the Force. But anyway, which is she touches the Spark Eternal, and you have this who enters her mind, takes over her body. But for what I'm focusing on here is her journey internally through with Merle, the original Spark Eternal, like the Ascendant kind of scion, if you will, and going through that story and their conflict with the Sith, and all the build up. I talk about build up with the path. Here's a huge build up over a number of years for Chelly, starting out as just this sardonic, carefree, careless, couldn't care less, just wants to make a quick buck. Fake archaeologist, not even a real doctor. She kind of forged her thing. She kind of figured it out eventually, but basically there to use what she knows to make a quick buck. And all through, she's finally, meeting, reconnecting with Sana, meeting Tolvan, with her father, and then this girl in BT and 000 when Pondaval and Evazan are gonna have the kill switch on, and all that whole saga there. She's finally ready to actually kind of go into the past, go into history, encounter someone, and it's not time travel, but it's the weird Star Wars form of time travel, which is just going into a force-induced vision or something.
Yeah.
And she encounters someone from the past who has suffered and lost, and she finally is able to learn and grasp why history matters. I think about my guy Reith Silas, who intimately has this sense of why history matters. He needs to learn why the present matters, and he's gotten there. Chelly needed to learn why history matters. This isn't just about making quick buck. This is about how we move forward and live as a society based on where we've come from, both in the recent past and the ancient past. And for her in her line of work, the ancient past, and how alternative societies functioned, how kind of the origins of her own society, of the origins of the Sith, and what kind of what they're on about and up to. So why history matters and why family matters. Merle has lost the left hand, her left hand, if you will, kind of not literally, but called like the Ascendant, I think is called the left hand. Lost and suffered, and Chelly, that this is this big moment at the end of this run is on the AMX Station. Here's another one on the AMX Station.
The tank station.
The tank station. The and she's confronted Vader again, and the this leading into the Dark Droids thing, but you confronted Vader, and she's in danger, in mortal danger, and she comes to. She's finally safe. And there's Sana and Magna and her father, and the girl she was protecting, and she's just up in their company, and finally realizes, oh yeah, family matters, people matter, and so it's finally her turn, I think, towards the light, finally, based on a sense of reality outside of herself, from her past, from the past of just existence, and this existence is much bigger than her. And that's the perspective she gains here, and the perspective of people around her who are necessary to her life to hold her up, and she can begin to start holding them up too, as opposed to just letting them down. Folks who keep giving her a chance, and so yeah, it is really just epic conclusion. It's one of those things. Again, I talk about this a lot, where you can kind of predict where a character is going to go, but to see how Alyssa takes Chelly, they did such a fantastic job with that yeah, I gotta give her that moment there, give Chelly that moment in the sun.
I'm excited for what Afra's gonna do in the post Andor era. Oh, Luke goes to her and says, "Hey, Vader's dead," and then Afra's like, "What?" It's like, "Oh yeah, Vader's dead. I don't have to deal with him anymore."
Yeah.
Huzzah! Like, that's gonna be fun. I love it when other people, when Luke has to tell about Vader, and then and then Luke doesn't get the reaction you think he would.
they've crossed paths multiple times, right?
No, I'm
I
talking about
mean,
after Endor, though.
yeah, I know. What I'm saying is, there's some great setup for. I mean, make the ongoing run a Luke Chelly story. Yeah, you gotta get Beaumont in there. You gotta get Lando in there.
But Beaumont's a kid.
Oh yeah, I guess that's true. You gotta fit him in there somewhere. Eventually, get Beaumont in there.
Baby Beaumont.
Get Lando in there, sure, but uh, Luke and Chelly looking for Jedi artifacts, trying to actually learn the ways of the Force more deeply.
Well, that'd be fun. I mean, or at least do it for an arc, right? Like do an
Yeah.
arc of that. Like, 'cause I just want to like.
I want more than one arc. I want multiple.
I mean, they probably will. They
yeah,
probably
they're
will
good.
cross paths most of the time. But like, I think it'll be fun to just kind of like. Because I always love it, like when Luke just coming off of like, I just had this like spiritual moment with my father, and I saw him gliding, and after like, your dad tried to block me in an air vent and sent me into space and almost got me killed.
Yeah.
Multiple times, and then I had to deal.
and
then I had to deal with him. He was having like power problems, and he almost killed us a couple times. So it's like I just like would love to like, Luke's having like our father's redeemed, and then after like, he tried to kill me times. I don't care what he is.
I mean that's kind of with Leia in Princess and the Scoundrel a little bit, and in Bloodline.
That's true. But also just thinking about like, Afron's kind of always got that, like, is Vader gonna come find me again?
Yeah.
He knows I'm alive. He always makes me his sidekick in adventures. And then it's like, oh no, I'm finally free of him. He's not gonna come and hunt me down, or kill me one day because he got mad. Like that's probably relief to her. It's like,
sure.
Oh, no more Vader adventures. Oh, speaking of which,
Yep.
kind of a bit of a tangent, but are her droids still with her? Are the crazy droids still with her?
I think so.
Maybe,
I mean, they had their own thing in Dark Droids.
Are they alive? I'm asking.
Scourge. Yeah, I think so.
Oh, that'd be cool. Then they can come back and maybe like
they need to be reprogrammed. I don't know. Maybe not. That's too bad. If they could be like finally dealing with them once and for all, because they're fun. I mean, they can get overdone a little bit.
It'll be just fun to see, like, because Vader's gone. It's sort of like, I think Vader's shadow is going to be that. Now that's an arc that needs to happen. Just like Afro dealing with Vader's shadow, even though he's dead.
Afro and Luke.
Afro and Luke. That's how we do.
Maybe that's how they find the mask. Maybe Chelly helps them find the mask.
Maybe. I mean, wouldn't the mask be on Endor though?
Yeah. So they got to go figure it out. Oh, I guess never mind. The pyro's right there. Never mind. They can just grab it.
I mean, did Luke leave it there? I think Luke just leaves it there. Like,
I don't remember. I don't know if we know that. We don't know what happened, what he does with it.
I don't know. Anywho.
But I'll say, like, just to say the last point there, yeah, Luke. Whenever Luke and Chelly have gone in cahoots, the just the banter between them as characters, which it's really they, Greg and Alyssa both. I think Alyssa wrote an arc with Luke in it. Yeah, really well done, really well put. So, see, there you go. Mark Guggenheim or whoever else is writing this next ongoing script writes itself. Come on, this Vader moment. There we go. All right.
Right. So my number 2 is a cheat, but I can't help it.
So it's okay.
Hope dies arc. Hope dies arc.
Yeah.
I love this arc. It's one of my favorite arcs of the comics. It is one of those makes you rethink the saga kind of arcs, I feel.
Mm-hmm.
And I think those are always the best arcs when you kind of read something like, oh, my whole, I feel like this really is like a missing piece of the saga that we didn't see. Because it's really kind of cool to think like the build up to the Rebel Alliance after Yavin. It's like we're getting recruits. We got a fleet, and we're gonna bring the firepower, and then Vader shows up and massacres a bunch of them. Also, we get to see General Draven and Dodonna. Like we also get to find out what happened to them. So that's like a nice Rogue One connection. So it's like it's synthesizing A New Hope, Empire, and kind of Rogue One all together. Now that we kind of have all those pieces together, Luke is kind of like realizing, oh, my big heroic moment in A New Hope when everyone thought it was just me, the hero. It's like, oh no, that was built upon the backs of these people who are never gonna, no one in history is not gonna remember them, and stuff. And Draven's like, I want to do this for Jin. Like, I felt bad. Oh, I'm not here.
We good? We good? We're good.
And that was a great moment as well. It's just cool seeing the fleet also being built, the Rebel fleet that we're going to kind of see in Endor kind of come together and still escape. Obviously, you mentioned the Rogue Squadron part. That's great as well. And by the end, Khan and Leia are like, okay, Mon Mothma's like, well, you're the leaders now. You gotta be your commander, your general, your captain. I don't remember what the promotions were. It's like we lost Odana, we lost Draven, so we gotta go into hiding. Come back when we get to Hoth, but survive, because that's how the rebellion's gonna keep living. Yeah. So the Hope dies are really good, really good, like little tipping point in between 4 and 5. Really
good. So interesting about the Jason Aaron turn on the ongoing. Started out strong. Hope dies. I just remember reading
Gillen.
Yeah, I know. I'm getting there. I was like, issues like 39, 40, 45. Like these, what's going on? Are they just biding time? Like where are these stories going? There's even a set of just kind of one shots, one offs. And then I had this marked in my calendar. Kieron Gillen, number 50, starting the day. Also, the same day that Captain America number 1 by Ta-Nehisi Coates came out. I think this was 2018, I believe. And it just setting this. You talk about how it relates to A New Hope and Empire, and saying the beeline to Empire, and it didn't quite do that. There's still 25 more issues left. But at the beginning of Empire, there are aliens on the run. They're eating these little cells on Hoth and whatever. Clearly, the arc starts with them in a position of strength, but then, the betrayal of Queen Trios was so well put together. Kind of going, the backstory with the deal she had to make with Vader. And then the build up to saying, putting the rebels in this dire spot with their shields down. They can't the fighters can't launch, can't open the doors. But Luke gets the word. If we just fly at them, maybe they'll just automatically open, or not. But this is our only shot. It's our only hope left. And he's ordered not to, but like you said, he's reflecting. This is the moment. My honorable mention, reflecting on everything that's led to this, or led to this moment too. You want to talk about honoring this new film that'd come out 2 years before that we all actually loved. And there is always a way of, one of the things comics do, and I'll definitely get to this in part with my number 2, is when a character from, like, a classic character from the original trilogy references something in a Disney story, for example, in a newer thing. I mean, that was true with Vader on Exegol with Greg Pak. Definitely true with Luke. I mean, Luke, he goes to Jedi and he sees what happened there, and he
meets up with Saw's gang.
Yeah, he does. Sorry. He goes to Jedi and he figures that out, and then he recalling the story about Jin and Cassian, and naming them and being inspired by them, continuing to be inspired by them, and just say, okay, Rogue Squadron form up. And it is the Star Wars version of Avengers Assemble, right? It's has that Goosebumps feel to it. So definitely a great pick for number 2.
Right. Small one more thing I want to bring up about that, because I think it's just getting brought in the head. Also, in the Jedi arc, Han meets Two Tubes, and mentions, "Hey, you're a lot different than when I met you all the years ago in Solo, a Star Wars story." And it's like, well, that life changed and we went on a different path. It's like, it's again, like you said, like, here's Han Solo, Harrison Ford drawn Han Solo from 1977, mentioning stuff from the 2018 movie about his past that only came out like a couple months ago. And it's like that's a cool moment as well. It's kind of like synthesizing it, making it feel all real and like it's all part of one thing. But I think you'll have more to say about that in your number two.
Yes. I'll jump into it a little bit. Well, yeah. So this is a big cheat, huge cheat, because this covers multiple comics. Even could have mentioned the Greg Pak, but especially Vader 2015 number 25, the finale, Kieron Gillen's finale. Vader 2020 number 5, which is right there, and of course Charles Soule's finale, Anakin versus Vader. And this could be in my number one, except we have another number one, and there's a good reason for that. But any just the way, so first of all, in I guess it would have been in 2018 when this Vader 2015 finale shows up. You have Vader, a vision of Vader dueling Anakin on Mustafar, and Vader defeating Anakin on Mustafar. And I read that in a Starbucks. I remember I'm in a Starbucks. I'm reading this comic. I gotta read it again immediately. That it blew my mind the way this comic was able to go into Vader's soul, Vader's psyche, and see at his heart, he is who he is the attempt to stamp out Anakin Skywalker. And so when Kieron finally built up to that moment and brings us that vision, and we see that I don't know if that's there or maybe in the Soul Run with the vision with like the red glowing and the meditation, but still that's the first time we had seen that kind of, well, no, it's not the first time, we'll get to that, but it's the first time the deep theme of Revenge of the Sith was truly grappled with in a comic set after A New Hope, and it really pulled things together in such a amazing way. And then of course Charles Soule building on that, basically building out his whole comic effectively on that. Book ended number 5 with the bleeding of the crystal, and this temptation. That's the thing with the crystal here. Vader, he's on Mustafar again. He's actually on Mustafar. He has what's his name, the crystal from the lightsaber with the guy who took the brash vow.
That guy.
That guy who's supposed to show up in High Republic Phase 3, but that's another story. Anyway, he has that crystal, and he gets a vision of Obi-Wan offering him forgiveness and a way back, and maybe it's gonna get kind of played with in the Lego special that's coming up, but really again confronting his past, confronting his identity, confronting the way Anakin is still inside of him. And I mean, again, Greg Pak, everything with Sabe, it's again my honorable mention, is a way of also bringing that back. Maybe this is kind of folding that in, right? Um, everything about Padme is really about, well, everything about Sabe is really about Padme. About Padme and Luke essentially is about Anakin, Vader remembering he being the father of Darth Vader, or father of Luke Skywalker, but Anakin's the father of Luke Skywalker. Vader isn't. So is Vader Anakin or not? And in his rage-filled kind of delusion, he says, "No, I killed him on Mustafar. I killed Anakin on Mustafar." We have the Clone Rebels. Anakin Skywalker was weak. I killed him, and then with Ahsoka, and then we have the moment in Kenobi, of course. But like you keep saying, it all starts with Kieron Gillen, and then of course the vision at the end. Well, first of all, the whole point he's building this castle is so he can bring Padme back. That's in that VR experience, and it's also in this Vader run, where and then he ultimately has this at the end of Charles Soule's run here. He has this vision of Padme, who would rather jump off a cliff than join him. She's completely refused him, just like she did on Mustafar. And Anakin, you're breaking my heart. And so, uh, reckoning with his failure to be a real person, to be a person, in a way, his failure to be a real person, because evil is kind of this lack, this turning away from genuine humanity. Vader's this attempt to stamp out his real identity as Anakin. Um, and then that's what the whole vision with the red meditation. Even little Annie, little Prequels to Annie in the red there, and with Palpatine and Obi-Wan, I am your father, no, I'm your father. That moment, that the fuss to Charles caused by people not reading it deep enough. It's not what it's saying, but even the way Anakin struggled with his identity coming from his lack of fatherhood, maybe. Of course, Shmi provided that for him. He just needed to receive it. Shmi was Anakin's father in a deep and meaningful way. And so Obi-Wan could have been, Qui-Gon definitely could have been, but the way these comics have just explored that make it. I mean, that's the thing, is it's hard to say is this 2 or is this 1. I guess it kind of has to be 2 because we have a number 1 saved here. But the number 1 moment that we'll get to in a minute really kicks all that off. But the way these comics, the high moment for me, the best part of these comics is the way they've taken that question, my favorite question in Star Wars, Anakin and Vader. How do they relate? How do they connect? And the reason for that, of course, is pulling these character connections. For Vader, that's the thing, is the prequelist moment here. For Vader, Attack of the Clones isn't some random silly movie that happens in that came out in 2002 that nobody watched, nobody cares about, just ignore it. No, Attack of the Clones is
lots of people watch it. Still be a billion.
I know I'm being silly, but Attack of the Clones is the story. The events of Attack of the Clones are just this deeply formative moment: death of his mother, his marriage to Padme. These deeply formative moments that led him on the path to being to forgetting Anakin and becoming Darth Vader. And so, the way it helped us remember and situate in our minds, this isn't a prequel. This T-shirt is a misnomer. These comics have stamped out once and for all that episodes 1, 2, and 3 are main story, integral, and the comics have just really played with that and filled that out and teased that in, and helped us, kind of, again, Kieron Gillen and Charles Soule and Greg Pak using their own storytelling and power. Of course, Giuseppe Camuncoli and all the other artists using their storytelling power and imagination to draw out what George was saying and doing with both these, well, especially with the prequels, especially with 1, 2, and 3, teasing out what he was saying and doing with, especially Return of the Jedi. So, again, satisfying seeing how what Charles does on Wednesday, seeing what Greg does, I believe next Wednesday, because again, maybe another favorite moment in this Anakin Vader saga.
Yeah, I really like these moments. I'm not a big fan of the Greg Pak moments, but I've made my clear that
like with the Padme.
I mean, they're fun, but I don't think that I like them as much as the Charles Soule and the Gillen ones.
They don't go as deep. No.
Yeah. I mean, I know, like, I love the Exegol moment, but, overall, like, Greg Pak's arc is probably, like the weakest of the Vader arcs for me. I think I like Soule's more.
His Vader Luke stuff is stronger, I will say.
But no, these are really good moments. I don't know which one is my favorite, because I really like the Mustafar one back when it came out. Yeah. I also like the Soule one because it's so weird and mystical. You got the weird Palpatine looking at Shmi weird moment.
Yeah,
that was fun.
Yeah. The discourse around that.
So that was a fun moment. I don't know. I like both. So these are all overall really good moments.
Mm-hmm.
I got not much to say about them. I don't know which one would be my favorite if I had to pick.
Again, I call them all one moment. Anakin Vader in the comics.
But they're all different as well. Like one's all weird and just esoteric with Anakin,
Sure.
kind of being
different layers to them too.
That too. But yeah, all really good films.
I mean, they're all esoteric. They're like the three I mentioned. They're all visions.
That's true. Right. I just don't know which vision I like more. Like, do I like the Vader vision where he's like a monster creature with like no hands, kind of a thing, or do I like the more him kind of going into lava? You know what's actually funny? Just one little side tangent about that moment. The moment when Anakin falls into lava and rises as Darth Vader. You know what's funny? As a kid, that's how I legit thought Darth Vader was born. I thought Anakin literally just fell into lava and then just came out with the arm. I know. Like, I don't know why as a kid I always thought that, but I did.
I mean, close enough.
This was before Revenge of the Sith, too. But, so yeah, there's that moment. But no, they're all really good and really exciting. All right. Let's do it. Our number one. Our number one. I love this moment. To me, this is a moment why I love it because it feels like a moment that should be part of the saga.
I'm just gonna do something in the background. Keep talking here.
Okay, I love it. I just like this should be like a scene in a movie. I hear the music. I hear the voice. I hear kind of the way it all moves. This should be. Let's feel like a moment that should have been in episode 4.5 that they never made, and that is the "I Have a Son" moment from Gillen's run. End of arc 1.
Yeah.
Because gosh, this moment's great. This moment to me is like and that let's talk about Gillen's run over as my favorite of the original trilogy runs, especially. But this really is the transition. This is almost like the light bulb in Vader's head goes click, because in A New Hope, and you see a little bit in Soul's Vader, but mostly in New Hope, in Rogue One, in the films, you see Vader's just the Emperor's lapdog. He's the enforcer. He's just kind of doing, this is just his job now. It's like, well, it's my job. I have no real ambitions in life. I'm just going to go on autopilot, serve the Emperor. Maybe I'll get a little pissed off when I see Kenobi. But then after that, it's like, well, back to work. This is the moment where Vader's like, oh, I can have it all again. I can be more than just Palpatine's lapdog. I can usurp the Emperor. I can have the life I wanted with Padme via my son. I can, I have something to live for at last in a twisted sense. And, it's just like the ambition, the drive, the Vader we see in Empire Strikes Back, who's like so focused on finding Luke that he literally screws up the Battle of Hoth and makes what should have been an Imperial victory into a defeat because he's just sacrificing soldiers because he wants to get to Luke because that's the goal. This moment is like such a pinnacle, like, oh, this is filling in a gap that I never knew I needed filled before. In a way that, other books and comics, which I love, it's like, I don't need them. They're good to have, but it's like, the movies still work for me. This is the moment where it's like, yeah, this is part of the film. This is part of the saga. And this is why it's my number one. Mm-hmm. All right, Matthew.
June 3rd, 2015. Star Wars.
Close to my birthday.
Oh, nice. There we go. You got a great birthday party.
Well, it was close to my birthday. It was my birthday 30th, so June 3rd.
Same month, June 3rd, 2015, ongoing number 6 by Jason Aaron. And then I forget when Vader 6 comes out, probably the next week. And you know what? This is both the "I Have a Son" moment is both of our number ones. It's one of my favorite moments in Star Wars, period, of all time. To give us to say, for this just the out of universe thing. The story group, they said, okay, comics, you can explore Anakin Vader, just the idea, the characters, that you're gonna also get the moment that Vader learns about Luke, and I don't know who pitched who or how that worked, but Jason Aaron and Kieron Gillen got their heads together and said, "How are we going to do this? We're going to write this because, um, you know, it's about Luke and it's about Vader, and so we got to both do it together, or something. Just somehow they had the genius to decide that, and it's because it's such a big, essential moment in all of the Star Wars, in the Skywalker saga, makes it about the Skywalker saga. Okay, it's got to be in both comics, right? It's got to be in both flagship comics, because that's the thing about the way these comics have worked is there's been dual flagships, and that's of course going to have to change now. We're going to a period where Vader's no more. There's been the ongoing run and the Vader run.
Don't underestimate the power of Vader comic coming back on.
At some point, but there's always, those have been the two flagships, the dual flagships, and so they had to do this within months of it, of this new era coming upon us, and the way they just carried all Jason Aaron and Kieron Gillen their responsibility. Again, the art that I brought up before. I should credit the artists here. Forget who, but maybe is it Salvador LaRocca? I don't know. Let's see. Star Wars.
Yeah, when the Tracy was going on that.
Yeah. So yeah. Anyway, taking all their storytelling experience to bear and building up this moment that could have been a bit of a dud, could have been a little clumsy, and it was perfect. It was, Luke has just encountered Boba Fett on Tatooine at Ben's hut, and he goes, and then because Boba Fett's supposed to go figure out who this kid who destroyed the Death Star is for Vader, and then goes and reports the idea of a name, Skywalker. Boom, that's it, and then boom, launches, and this is it for me, is in the Gillen run. Vader immediately launches into our first flashbacks to the prequel trilogy, and everything I was saying about in my number 2, it really starts right here. It says, this isn't, again, this is 2015. This is when, for a lot of folks, the prequels are these other films. That's what it is. It's these other films that we don't watch as often. We don't take as seriously. So they aren't as much a part of our sense of the story. And here, Kieron Gillen is saying, no, these are core memories. When you first hear that your wife is pregnant, that's going to be a pretty darn critical memory for you. Affecting who you are. And we have those moments. We have those flashbacks to Revenge of the Sith, to in the chamber there, just the kind of the lobby there, and picking from Padme and her angst. What are we gonna do? And Anakin saying it's gonna be fine. Everything's gonna be fine. Vader remembering that on the bridge of his Star Destroyer, and just immediately, first of all, the suffering, the loss, seeing Padme's face there, immediately the rage, the anger, and the hate towards Palpatine, and that's what you're saying. It was this transition. It's a look back and it's a look forward. In this one moment, to saying, "Oh, he lied to me. I didn't kill Padme, or I don't know what happened with Padme, but at least she lived long enough to give birth." And the hope isn't over, but the only thing I can do with hope is to think about the rule of 2. Say here, if he is anywhere near as powerful as I am, then he can join me, and together we can rule the galaxy as father and son. And going to Palpatine, saying, now we understand each other. We understand each other perfectly. I think one commentator said that this learning that Luke is alive is actually the moment. Oddly enough, this moment is the moment Vader fully falls to the dark side, fully commits to being a Sith, because all he cares about when he sees his son is, how am I going to take over the galaxy? It's then, like I was saying, the rest the rest of these comics for the last, sorry, for the next, yes, I don't know, ish 8 years or so, however long, when Vader 25, Charles Soule's Vader 25. So, well, that, but then again, all the way until this arc, all the way until in 2 weeks, this path towards back to the light, into Luke's power to draw Anakin back to Return of the Jedi. Again, everything kicked off with this moment here. This is the moment, and it has to become right at the beginning. It's the one says this is what Star Wars comics are going to do. They're going to forge these bonds between the prequels. We're going to have prequel flashbacks in Vader comics because that is him remembering his life, and we're going to like you said, the moments looking back and looking forward. We are going to tell the story of how these characters got to these moments, pivotal moments in the films, and we're going to do it by having these pivotal moments in comics. And yeah, they got. It wasn't a novel. It was the 6th issue of both these runs, and it was executed perfectly. It is the pinnacle of what Star Wars comics is, of what it can be, and what any franchise comic could be. Is to say, we're going to take this story, to define, make a definitive moment in the saga. And this is a bit of a preview for next week. You want to talk about weight and weighty stories? This is one of the weightiest stories in paper canon, period. And it came right at the beginning, and they nailed it perfectly. And so, yeah,
they really treated those comics really well at the beginning.
Yeah.
Oh, I got to respond.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I think that's one of the nicest things about the reboot in general has been to kind of see. I remember I had a tweet that I retweeted a while back. I can find it right now. It's sort of what you were talking about, although they were talking more about the High Republic in general. But let me find it. I think it's so hang on. I will. Sorry about this, but it's a good tweet, and I need to say it because it's a really good tweet. And that was something along the lines of how people really liked how High Republic and sequel stuff came into the original trilogy era because it really grounds the canon together. And I think you can throw in the prequels because I think what they meant by that. There we go. They said this is somebody named Jacqueline saying, "God, but I love when High Republic and sequels trilogy stuff shows up in the Rise of the Empire OT era because it anchors them in the world of this living tapestry even more." And I think what they meant by that is because if you had a disconnect with the prequels, honestly, that's quite valid because let's face it, most part, prequel stuff didn't show up. Well, to be fair, there's a reason for the EU as it was already being developed beforehand. But yeah, prequel stuff and sequel stuff kind of were almost in their own weird little bubbles. Sure, Darth Vader shows up at the end of Revenge of the Sith, but that's about it. Clone Wars shows up. Yeah, you kind of get some hints of stuff like that. But again, it's still in the era of the prequels. It's a lot more grounding, I think, and a lot more this is all one thing when you see a B-1 battle droid during the Empire era, or Luke Skywalker mentioning Count Dooku, or a Super Star Destroyer fighting off a Trade Federation cruiser during the Empire era, and loyalists to General Grievous are there. Because I think it really does synthesize that this is all one world in a way that because of how they are made, the original trilogy really can't do that unless George Lucas had time to special edition stuff in stuff like that.
Doug going through Mos Eisley.
Yeah, like a Doug going through Mos Eisley, The New Hope. Actually, that might actually exist. But sort of stuff like that really kind of can synthesize that world, and I think we've been just seeing more and more of that now. And I think at this point, now we're just used to it. It's special because it's no longer special. in a sense. Like this is where we should have. This is where we should go. This is where we should have gone, and we have gone. So hooray, we made it. We did it, folks.
Prequels and wins. Sorry.
Just sagas at this point. Just Star Wars. There are no prequels and sequels.
Exactly.
It's just Star Wars.
That was the prequels' goal all along, is to abolish ourselves.
Exactly. And it's interesting. I didn't know that people commented about the Vader thing, because I do agree. Because I was talking, I was Tales of the Jedi, talking about just the various Sith and whatnot. And it's like, what's interesting about Vader is and to some extent, like people like Dooku are like interesting, because like a lot of the fact they were Jedi at first kind of hampers them fully becoming Sith. They got like so much of their Jedi baggage, just kind of makes them not very good Sith. And to be fair, part of that is Palpatine, because he never wanted to be placed in the first place. So he's like, you never really got anybody who's like to be a good Sith. It's like just sure, here you go. Like, so Vader in a lot of ways was like Palpatine's enforcer, but I never considered Vader like quote unquote a good Sith, and that like I never could imagine Vader like just sitting down studying Sith scholarship and stuff like that, like just going through the pages, studying, becoming a master of Sith lore and stuff like that.
Darth Vader.
Right, like unlike Palpatine, who did become a good Sith and stuff like that. In you know what I mean by good Sith, but
like as a worthy successor.
Yeah, as a worthy successor to the rule of two, and as like I it's hard to imagine Vader as like the master, the new Dark Lord, because I think he's got too many hangups, still. But I definitely can see like this is definitely where Vader's at least now committed to trying to become the new Dark Lord. Obviously, we see him not do well, and even in PAX runs, sort of like he's halfway there, but then another time he's like, I don't know anymore.
Yeah.
I'm kind of 50-50 on this, and it's sort of like, well, that's why Palpatine's still the Sith Lord who remains the Dark Lord, and there hasn't been like a good successor. Like, and even if Vader had killed Palpatine, I just imagine it's like, in terms of like Sith Lord, Dark Lord, Vader's probably still a downgrade. In terms of just competence and evil, I want to add. But no, I agree with that at that moment as well. So that's a good point. But yeah, everything else you said, spot on.
Yeah, I mean, I will say, if Vader never learns about Luke, if Vader never learns that the son of Padme is still alive, and therefore the hope of Padme's legacy can still be alive, then maybe he does fully commit all the way for the rest of his life, right? And that's part of it. Another part of it is physically. He loses his limbs on Mustafar. Also, we never see him. We see him lead, but we never see him. That's the problem with the Sith Master becoming the Emperor. Is that the Sith Apprentice, to become the Sith Master, also has to become the Emperor, potentially. I mean,
and I just can't imagine Vader being good at that either.
You can maybe install a puppet, potentially, but yeah, I mean, part of it also. Well, here's the thing: is that Palpatine, like you said with the stuff with Exegol, Palpatine never wanted a successor. He wanted to be his own successor. If he wanted a successor, he would have picked someone else, right? So, I mean, maybe Anakin would have been able to, but what we see of Vader, he's just too quiet and brooding, and not enough concern. Yeah, we don't necessarily see him that into kind of Sith esoterica the way a Sith Master probably should. Also, to be fair, we haven't, in canon at least, we haven't seen too many Masters and Apprentices succeed them. We haven't seen that changeover happen much, or have it all, really. I mean, we've only seen it once. No, we've never seen
it. We're not in canon. Legends, if you want to read some stuff, go with Darth Vader.
Yeah, and Darth Plagueis, yeah, but also Darth Bane and all that. Yeah, we've never actually seen it. So
I'll just say, It would have been interesting if Vader killed the Emperor beforehand and then like became the Emperor, because they're like, I mean, to be fair, it's like, is it really an improvement? Probably not, but also Vader has a certain skill set, and Palpatine has a certain skill set, and Palpatine's skill set in terms of being manipulating the politicians to kind of do what they need to do, so they don't overthrow him, is one thing, and Vader was always more the general on the front lines commanding the troops.
General Skywalker. Also, Obi-Wan in Attack of the Clones, they're going up the elevator, and Anakin's trying to get his hormones down, and the way that Obi-Wan does it, even for Padme, she's a politician, she can't be trusted. So that's kind of rattling around his mask there, that Padme's that politics was the source of corruption in the galaxy. And therefore, almost that for Vader, the Empire is the solution to politics. It isn't politics itself; it's a solution to politics.
Palpatine was better at politics.
Sure, but and Palpatine would have thrived in that. But again, for Vader, it's the solution to the corruption of politics through an iron fist, stamping out the Jedi, and so he is that fist to stamp out the Jedi. So he's finding the solution. But yeah, anyway, going back to this moment, it's like you were saying with Solo and with Exegol, right?
And Rogue One.
In Rogue One, that's the thing is the original trilogy. Maybe this is why I feel for it a little less. Is we're so used to it in our minds, it almost doesn't feel like fantasy anymore. It feels like just the thing we're just so well worn, and so when we see these references, because I mean that's the thing, and that's what the reception of the prequels was so difficult. What was so difficult about that reception was that it was so different, and that the style and tone and design
didn't help that.
It was so different that it just didn't feel like the familiarity of Star Wars to people. And so my point there, when we see a prequel flashback or reference to Rogue One or whatever, something new and unfamiliar, in these, we get jolted into thinking, oh yeah, of course, this will be part of this person's memory. Of course this person will remember this, but we get jolted into it. We don't naturally go there until these stories train us to go there. And again, that's what I love about this moment is
goes up Vader going to Naboo.
Yeah, Vader going to Naboo. But these flashbacks, that's the thing, is the first time in canon, at least, I guess. I don't know if we do it in Legends, but it's the first time in canon we get these flashbacks and like so vivid memories, and that again sets the stage for all the other flashbacks, key moments in these comics, especially the Vader comics, going forward. And so again, to put a bow on it, the way it really ties the saga together in one comic, in these two comic book moments, or one comic book moment shared across these two books, tying the whole saga together like that, or at least the George Lucas saga, if you will. But
yeah, Legends was a bit more complicated because a lot of the post-Endor stuff was already being developed at the time. There were Vader comics that dealt with prequel stuff. I mean, there's like some tales of where Vader and Darth Maul are fighting, so that stuff did happen. There actually is a Vader Dark Horse comic where he meets like the ghost, talks to like the ghost of Padme, like bleeding pathetically towards her. So there's that, and there's like you can still see like early Empire where they're still in clone armor, fighting separatist remnants.
That was another thing with the Charles Soule comic, right? Especially
that was Dark Horse. So.
I know, but I'm saying with the Charles Soule comic, you see. I mean, one of the comics I got signed is a variant, I think, of number 2. It's Vader staring down a pair of a row of Phase 2 clones, because that's who they are. One of my favorite action figure toys is the Vader Actus. Bridging the saga, bridging those things together, and making them part of our consciousness as part of the story.
So yeah, Legend did do that. It just was a bit more hard to make organic because we already were developing an EU at the time,
Yeah.
and we were kind of having to take what we did in the '90s and then kind of reshape it and kind of mess it with it a little bit, and then we were developing it as the prequel were happening. So it's a bit more of a messy situation. Whereas it's like with canon we reboot. We have just the 6 films and the Clone Wars to build off of. There you go. Boom.
Yeah.
Then we go back and forward. So yeah. But yeah, you're absolutely right. It's one of the best moments in comics.
There you go. Fun times. I'll do it there.
Oh,
we got a question.
We got a question
from Steve. Sure. What's your question and honest thoughts? But until then, it's again, it's striking. How a lot of our moments are about bridging the saga. The way these comics have done that.
Well, that's always the fun part of any EU stuff these days.
Yeah.
Again, that's why I like Star Wars Outlaws a lot, because it's like you're in the Empire era, playing as Kay Vess. What's one of the missions? Got to go to Akiva from the Aftermath books.
Yeah.
And go into a Separatist droid factory, and you see posters of Separatists, and it's like, then one of the droids malfunctions. It's like Jedi infiltrators, alert General Grievous. So it's like there you go. Oh, did we get a question for Honest Off?
Yeah, here's the question. This is going back to our earlier topic. Sorry, go there. With the passing of James Earl Jones, will they find a new voice for Vader?
They always find voices
there
for
will always
Vader.
be voices. There already are. So the one in Outlaws, spoiler alert, isn't that good. I found. I will say, and without disrespect, they needed to do. They always towards the end they needed to do more processing on his voice. It was like in Rogue One and Rebels, it was more nasally, just because his voice was nasally. I think maybe in who's in Fallen Order, it's not bad, but yeah, who's the one who does it in the audiobooks, who voices what's the character guy in Resistance? Character in Resistance.
Oh, I know who you're talking about. He did Vader's voice in a couple of games back in the day. I don't remember the actor's name, but I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
That guy.
Yeah. Either that, or if there is a contractual allowance with it, maybe his estate to use kind of AI sampling or something.
Who was the guy who did it in Force Unleashed? I thought he was pretty good.
Yeah. I should look that up.
He also did Chad Vader, which was that Star Wars parody that George Lucas really liked.
We're getting white armor Vader in a few weeks in the Lego thing. So see what they do there. Unless they have James Earl Jones for that.
Probably not. They probably They probably got the guy who does Vader in the Lego specials.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he's not bad. Sure.
I don't know who that is either.
Yeah.
But it's been the same dude. I would recognize that actor. I would recognize, that Vader has a very distinct voice. Because it's the Darth Vader theme, but it's very silly. Because it's very silly. Lego Vader's very silly. Because it's Lego. So
the answer is likely find a new voice. But again, if before he died he agreed to this, and if he agreed to this, obviously, with an agreement with his estate to use sampling and use AI sampling or something.
I'll say this though.
Possible too. It may not be the best option because that's not a real performance of an actor, but for smaller lines, for smaller moments, maybe.
I'll say this though. Vader, it's kind of funny how we always think there's so much Vader. Especially think that you and I might think that because we read the comics.
Mm-hmm.
But you actually go on screen, there's actually not that much Vader on screen, right? He just his helmet in episode 1, episode 7. He appeared in Rogue One. That's his big moment.
Yeah.
Not in Solo. Not in episode 8. He appeared one voice line, episode 9.
Mm.
Not in Mando, season 1 and 2. Not in Boba Fett. Obviously in Kenobi. Oh yeah, he's in Rebels. He's in Rebels. I always forget about Rebels.
Yeah.
Also voiced by General Jones.
Yeah.
That was the big thing. Not Resistance, and obviously Anakin, and Anakin Hayden Christensen's in Ahsoka. It's like the one moment Vader line. So
True.
they're actually really conservative with Vader on screen. I can
Yeah.
see. I think that's probably smart because I think that's a special thing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, with comics, it's like I haven't help it.
Well, but even with the comics, I mean, that's an interesting thing. Is Kieron Gillen? I remember him talking about writing for Vader. It was this challenge because, yeah, the reason you don't put him on screen much is to preserve the mystique, to preserve the mystery, right? Now, of course, the whole point what we were talking about with these comics is that they unveil the mystery and actually dive into it of Anakin and Vader, and so you get a lot more. But even then, Kieran Gillen was saying a lot more show and not tell, a lot sparser with the dialogue. That's why they use these visions to really tell the big story beats. In part, why also mainly because it's an internal story. But that's a great point. It's his presence, just him being there and the breathing. And that's something with the comics is I have to remember to hear the breathing. I definitely hear James Earl Jones' voice in my head, but hear the breathing with it too. Um, yeah, it's just the presence, the size, the grandeur, everything about him that James Earl Jones inhabited so perfectly, and it, how we fill those shoes, how we fill that suit. I don't know, but
I mean, we already filled the suit. It's like,
anyway,
well, I mean, we've had lots of
we
good
fill the
things.
suit as well. Will there be someone who comes along? No, there can't be someone who comes along and does as good of a job, but because the original is part of
Of
baked
course.
into what the character is. But
Yeah, I hope they don't pick the Outlaws voice, but I'm sure when they actually, I mean, I'm sure when time for it,
yeah,
if they have to find a replacement voice, they'll probably be a little bit more selective than with the video games in the.
I mean, there's going to be a new animated show. He doesn't show up in Bad Batch.
All right, doesn't show up bad. Palpatine does,
Or
voiced by E. McDermott, but they got replacements for E. McDermott. They got the same Whitworth for that.
Yeah. In the next animated show, if it's set in the Empire.
Well, here's a question. I mean, don't want to get too speculative about the next animated show, but
Yeah.
that if they did any Vader recording, then they did that like a year ago when he was still alive. So
Yeah, but I don't know if they used him though.
well, sure, but we don't even know if he's in the show. So let's not pretend. Let's not
Gotcha.
act like again. He might not even be in it.
Right.
I saw he'd be in Bad Batch, and he wasn't either. So
Yeah. I mean, I figure he was fairly retired by then. I could be wrong.
sometimes people come back for special reasons.
For Vader, you come back, right?
Right.
What Bryce Dallas Howard was saying, she will do anything for Star Wars. She'll rearrange her schedule.
It was nice hearing him in Rogue One, even though
Yeah.
it was maybe a little old. I don't care.
Well,
it's just nice to hear him. I mean, he says, be careful not to choke on your aspiration.
I love that joke.
Director.
There you go. All right, we've hit the 2-hour mark, so I think it's a good time to wrap things up. Unless you have any final thoughts on comics or James Earl Jones or Jakku.
Loss of a legend, man. Loss of a legend. As for comics, leave us comments in the comment section about your favorite comic moments from Canon. And if you want to leave some Legends one too, go ahead. We only stuck to Canon because I thought it'd be fair for Matthew to respond. Otherwise, you wouldn't know what I was talking about.
Dark Times.
Dark
Times.
I mean, I want to talk about Dark Empire probably more than Dark Times. But
I read KOTOR, the KOTOR comic.
I've actually never read that one. I should. But yeah, this was a fun discussion with a good listicle.
Yeah, we don't usually do these listicles, but obviously in Iron Canon fashion, it spun off into all these different conversations. So definitely more than easy to fill the 2 hours here. But a good time to wrap things up. Thanks everyone for joining in the comments and the questions. Great question from Steve. I'm sure we'll be hearing more of those kinds of thoughts and prayers with his family, James Earl Jones' family as well. Those kinds of questions about what do they do with Vader now. We've been having that conversation for a while, actually, but Um, definitely now it's required to have it. But let us know. Let us know what you think. Who you think what they'll do with Vader's voice. What do you think of the Battle of Jakku covers? Looking forward to that in what just over 3 weeks. That one number one comes out. Looking forward to that. Looking forward to 50. I'll get to Tractor Beam in a second, but yeah, please do
I'm looking
comment
forward to
below.
52.
What has been your favorite Star Wars comic uh, moment? So that I should say I forgot to mention this. That number one, the I have a son. It's also Dom's favorite. So good company there. Um,
It's a good moment. Those early days of comics were really special.
Chris Abbott's moment is the bleeding of the crystal. Actually,
Ooh,
I
it's not a
just
bad one. That's
so
not a real
yes,
mention.
but let us know what yours is. As Joel you mentioned, Joel mentioned. Let us know what yours is. Let us know down below in these comment boxes on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch. Let us know on the Discord server. There's a whole canon comics discussion thread there. You can pop the question in there too if we want. Pop the question. Not nothing to do with marriage except for Anakin Padme. Pop the question. What's your favorite comic canon moment? Go for it. In there, check the link down in the description for our way in for the key into the Discord server. Yeah, and please do give this video a like and a share. Subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already. Again, super chats and memberships are on the go, on the offer. Please do consider supporting the channel if as best you can and as best you wish. Joel, another great discussion as always. We went for it. Did the again listicles, but conversation. Where can they find you on the internet?
You can find me at JID2021. You can JID2021 on Twitter. Of course, every now and then I will pop in at the Ion Cannon Pod, EYEONCANON, POD. There we go. And of course, you can always find me in the Star Wars Underworld Discord, where we are, of course, mourning the loss of James Jones and also just talking Star Wars in general.
Great Big Bang Theory moment, Big Bang Theory clip
Oh,
on
yeah.
the
That
Underworld
was a good one.
Facebook. That was fun. Yeah, so then you need to check us out and follow Joel and ask Joel what his least favorite comic Star Wars comic book is in the Discord. Don't do it now. Do it in the Discord.
That
Um,
might be a hard one. I actually can't think of any things I dislike.
I know what mine is. It has to do with Vader also.
Ooh.
Was oh gosh, Target is it Target Vader? The with the toxic clingy girl, and that could have been
Nah, that's the Vader anthology one.
yeah, that one, whatever it's called.
Yeah, I don't think we can count that. I always just think of the main lines and
Yeah.
whatever.
There. Anyway. So yeah, check the link in the description. Anyway, follow us there. You can follow me on Instagram and Threads, MNEUG1138. Also Instagram if you like food, beaches.foodie. Got my photos for my pizza crawl. If you like pizza, photos of pizza and ice cream and beer, among other things, and fried chicken. Things I like to eat here in the beaches neighborhood in Toronto. Of course, at Iron Cannon Pod, EYEONCANONPOD on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads. Yeah, and of course Twitter. Oh yeah, I'm still on Twitter. NEG485. Different kind of takes on different things. So yeah, please do give us all check us out if you'd like to, but especially Underworld and at the SWU. Again, Tractor Beam this Wednesday, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. The Insider Short, Inquisitors number 3, and then especially spending a good chunk of time on the finale to Charles Soule's ongoing run. It's gonna be a great one. Believe it's gonna be about Luke telling Ben how his mom saved his dad from, or starting to tell the story at least. So how they got there, um, in part, among other things. Lots of things going on in that comic book. Can't wait to chat about it on Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific, right here on the Star Wars Underworld YouTube channel and wherever you get your video podcasts, Facebook and Twitch as well. So check that out. Again, as mentioned just before next week, episode 128. We've got this 128th episode coming up. Of course, I was off for a bunch of them, but glad to be back. Next week, we were talking about the relative weight and importance of different stories in canon, to paper canon. Maybe probably get into a little bit of the paper to screen pipeline discussion, but mostly just talking about Star Wars canon, etc. Kind of the Ion Canon classic deep dive that we do. So please do come back next week, 8:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 p.m. Pacific, next Monday, right here on the Underworld YouTube channel and Facebook and Twitch and Underworld Twitch and Iron Cannon Twitch, not on Twitter because it doesn't work. That's okay. But anyway, join us then. Should be another fun discussion. Joel, looking forward to seeing what you have cooked up. But until then, I gotta get to bed. Let's blow this thing and head home.